Let's get started with your next video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Roanoke Island, aka the Lost Colony. And we're going to be talking about the founding and the problems of Roanoke Island, and then finally why it got that name, the Lost Colony. So, neglected by the Spanish and the French, the Atlantic coast basically remained open for English colonization during the 1580s. And when the British first decided to come over, the first attempt at colonization was at a colony located at Roanoke Island. And Roanoke Island is located in present day North Carolina. The first promoters of English colonies were wealthy gentlemen from southwestern England. And one of those guys was Sir Walter Raleigh, which you guys will see in the next slide. But these men basically wanted to advance their own fortunes and to increase the power of England. They promised that an American colony would solve England's problems, a growing population, and then increased poverty due to a stagnant or sluggish economy. And so Roanoke was promising to not only give England more power, but it was also promising to alleviate some of the problems that they were experiencing. And again, Roanoke, guys, is in present day North Carolina. So the guy that we mentioned before, Sir Walter Raleigh, here he is with his pretty blue eyes, decided to propose shipping poor people across the Atlantic Ocean to work in the new colony. And by them mining for gold and silver and raising plantation crops like tobacco or rice or sugar, they would basically generate new wealth for England. So after obtaining a charter, which is basically a certificate of permission from the king, the group formed a joint stock company. And a joint stock company is a business venture that's founded and run by a group of investors who are able to share in the company's profits and losses. So those are your two vocab words, guys, charter and joint stock company. So after obtaining a charter, Sir Walter Raleigh tries to colonize for the first time in 1584 Roanoke Island in North Carolina. But the English ships struggled to land supplies, and the sandy and infertile soil produced insufficient and basically crummy crops. And so they decided to kind of just give up. Not only did they have food shortage, but then you also had issues with the Native Americans there, and you had issues with Spain. Remember, Spain was south of North Carolina, right around where Florida is today. And so the Spanish felt like maybe the English were kind of stepping in their zone a little bit. And so the first attempt was a failure. The colonists end up going back home in despair, and they abandon Roanoke Island. But this is not the last time that they tried to actually colonize this. In 1787, a man by the name of John White returns to Roanoke Island to restart this British settlement. He gets here with his people, but then he realizes that he needs to go back to England for more supplies. And he leaves the colonists at Roanoke Island and goes back to England to get supplies. When he's ready to return to the colonies, he's not able to return for 3 years. He's unable to return back to the colonies until 1590 because the British and the Spanish were at war and no ships were available basically to come to the colonies. All the ships were being used to fight. And so he had to wait for the war to be over. In 1590, he shows back up at the colony. And when he returns, it's a mystery. Everyone has vanished. There is nothing left behind. The camp is completely abandoned. But there is one single clue that he found on a tree trunk. And that was the word Croatoan, which is a Native American tribe that was in that area. So he searches and searches for them in 1590, but John White is unsuccessful in finding any of the colonists that he left behind 3 years ago. So I want you guys to just kind of think a little bit. What do you think happened? I mean, no one really knows. This is a history mystery. But if you had a couple of guesses as to what happened to these colonists that John White left behind, what would be your guesses? And be ready to discuss them because we're going to investigate them in class. So this is it. We're at the end of the video. It was super short. By the end of this video, you guys should be able to answer the following 9 questions. If you can't, go back, rewatch, make sure you guys have your notes, make sure you guys answer your blog, and I will see you guys tomorrow in class.